Coach. This is the Panthers at the Roughnecks. Michigan, a 3.5-point road favorite here. Total very low, sitting at 40. The forecast for H-Town is absolutely scorching. Listen to this. 96 and humid. And here's the problem. When you're starting your season at the end of March and over half of your teams are in the South, you're going to have these problems with hot weather. So if you're a Roughnecks fan heading out to this game to watch a 1-7 team, you might need a little more than just sunscreen to get through this one. But if you go, you deserve the UFL Fan of the Year award. And I can promise you when we do the freshies, you will get that. You will get that reward because 96 and humid, probably going to be 150 degrees on that turf. Just terrible. So last meeting between these two, a 34-20 Michigan victory. That was back in week 3. And E.J. Perry was actually the trigger man for the Panthers back then. Now they've got 3 different ones at this point in the season. Danny Etling cleared and back in action. He's off the injury report. He had missed the last few weeks with that hand injury. Brian Lewerke and Bryce Perkins, in my opinion, stepped in just fine in his absence. The combo of those two able to lead Mike Nolan's squad to back-to-back wins. So if you are Coach Nolan this week, you got a big decision on your hands, and it'll be interesting to see what the quarterback rotation is. I guess I really wouldn't be surprised to see a combination of Danny Etling and Bryce Perkins, right? It's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Do that for 2 weeks before the USFL championship game. And then I think at that point, playing against Birmingham with your season on the line in the USFL championship game, that's when you want to decide on one player. I don't think you play both. I think Michigan would be better off deciding these next 2 weeks who it's going to be against Birmingham, which my vote goes to Bryce Perkins, but we'll see what happens the next 2 weeks. Quarterback really isn't the only position that Michigan has rotated a lot of guys at. Running back was one of those, but with the loss of Wes Hills, Matt Colburn really becomes that workhorse in the backfield. Interested to see how much they use him here because, again, brutal heat. You're going to have guys cramping up left and right. I mean, turf temperature is going to be boiling point. So I think the smart move for the Panthers, activate all 3 tailbacks. You got Colburn, you got Nate McCrary, and you got Toa Taua. So try to manage that load and give all 3 guys carries because you cannot afford to lose Matt Colburn to injury, especially with what happened to Wes Hills. This is the most successful part of the Michigan offense has been running the ball. They've done it just super effectively, and, it's been Colburn the last couple weeks. I think he had 94 last week, had a couple games over 100 yards before that, but Wes Hills is going to hurt this team because you don't have somebody to come in and pace Colburn. Nate McCrary will certainly have to step up, and you might hear something from that Nate McCrary coming up here soon on some of the things that he could do. We might have a contributor on the show that could tell you a little bit about McCrary, not to tease too far into it, but yeah, as far as the Roughnecks defense, I do expect them to play a little better in this game than the one you're seeing right now from back in week 3. Michigan dropped 34 in that game. I think the Roughnecks defense holds them to maybe mid-20s. I mean, they weren't able to make enough stops to ultimately win the game against Birmingham when it was a very different type of game for Houston. Usually it's their defense giving them a chance to win at the end and the offense flops. This time it was the opposite. The offense actually had given the Roughnecks a chance to win that game down the stretch, and their defense ended up flopping, giving up 35 points to Birmingham and 5 for 5 inside the red zone. So, if you're the Panthers, I don't know how much you're going to be scoring in this game. Like I said, mid-20s, and your total's low, which usually isn't a good sign for offense. And like I said, I guess really guys on both sides of the ball will be cramping up. We know Jake Bates actually missed a 51-yard field goal last week that would have got Zook the cover for Michigan. They also dropped a 3-point conversion. So there was some, mistakes and miscues from the offense, but I think Danny Etling coming back will help shore some of those things up. Let's look at Houston offensively. We know head coach C.J. Johnson was impressed by the performance of quarterback Nolan Henderson, who shared the snap count with Reed Sinnett last week. CJ told the media he would actually like to see Henderson start if he's healthy. Remember, he went down on a fumbled snap in that game against Birmingham. So we'll see. I think it could be a great opportunity for Henderson to go in there and possibly lead the Roughnecks to their first conference win. I don't love the spot for the Michigan defense. They are potentially missing their sack leader in Breland Speaks. He is on the injury report. When you're going against a guy like Mark Thompson, who showed you what he could do last week, that could be a problem. But the good news for the Panthers, they should get star safety Kai Nakua back. And they added a linebacker in free agency by the name of Bumper Pool. I think that's going to automatically be Zook's favorite player. Bumper Pool is this guy's name. He's the leading tackler in Arkansas history. He actually played with Jake Bates for the Razorbacks. So look for him to be a potential Frank Ginda replacement. You want a hard-nosed linebacker in there with that sort of mentality. I think Bumper Pool. I can't say that enough. That is a phenomenal name. Bumper Pool. Sheesh, I love the UFL, man. So otherwise, like I said, not too confident on just the entire Michigan Panther operation this week. I think for them, it's really just survive, right? The next 2 games. You don't want to have any major injuries. You want to be able to dump all your focus into that USFL title game. For Houston, coming off their best offensive performance, over 300 total yards, like we said, got Mark Thompson going. He had almost 5 yards a touch. They were 8 of 15 on third down. That was very good. They had over 11 yards per pass completion. They were 3 for 4 in the red zone. So you could go through weeks of Houston offensively and try to combine 3 games, and you wouldn't get that total output from last week. So they completely blew my under bet out of the water, and my natural reaction to that would be, okay, now I'm going to go ahead and hop on board with the over 40, but I don't know. It just feels like a stay away to me. Maybe a little half-unit sprinkle if you're feeling frisky. I think maybe we get a 22-20 here, so you'll be sweating out the over. But coming off a pretty inspiring performance against Birmingham, against a team with really nothing but pride left to play for in Michigan, the Roughnecks are going to be the pick for me here. It's probably the first time I've gone with them. I think it definitely is the first time I've gone with them all season. I just feel like we have 4 road favorites this week. One of them is going to go down, so pick one. This is the most likely one.
All right, so back to the game. I think you're crazy. I'll take Michigan.